Hey guys, it's Alexis, aka The Health Reader, and I'm here today to do my January book haul, the first book haul of the year. Look, I'll be honest, I'm pretty proud of myself. I actually didn't buy that many books this month. Technically, I did place an order that I won't receive until February, so don't count that. We'll count that next month when I buy probably an exorbitant amount of books. This month I actually only purchased 2 books for myself, and then the rest of them were gifts of some variety. Most of them left over from Christmas because I didn't, my parents had purchased some books for me off of Book Depository and they didn't get here until after Christmas was already over, so I got them in January, but I'm still excited to have them nonetheless. And I'll just go ahead and get into it. First book I actually, there's my receipt. The first book I actually bought in January was one I got at the local secondhand bookstore, and I'm super excited I found this. I've been wanting to pick this book up for a really long time just because I've heard so many awesome things about it, so I'm super excited I found a copy of it. And that is Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. This is a woman of color. I believe she was British. I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on that. But this story is basically about this society where there are 2 groups of people, the Noughts and the Crosses. And I believe that these might be like 2 different like racial groups, because I've heard that this book has a huge discussion in it about race and racism, which is part of the reason I wanted to pick it up so bad. But yeah, I mean, this basically sounds kind of like, you know, the story itself, when you read the premise, doesn't sound like overtly amazing. It's kind of just like, I guess like a dystopian where there are these 2 people, one from the Noughts, one from the Crosses, who fall in love. And again, you guys know me, I'm not usually a huge fan of the Romeo and Juliet-esque type story, but again, I just heard that this has such a profound discussion about racism in it that like I've been dying to pick it up, and so I'm so excited I finally have a copy of it, and I paid like $2.99 for it, and yes, I'm very excited. I cannot wait to finally pick this up and see, you know, what's the big deal with Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. The next book I picked up this month was totally on a whim. I was at Target, and whenever I'm in Target I always go run and look through the books, because that's what I do, because I can't help myself and I have an addiction and I need help. And so I picked this book up because it was $8 and I like how cheap books are at Target, and that is A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallero. This is not necessarily a Sherlock Holmes retelling. The premise of this story is that we follow 2 kids in boarding school, the man who is the guy who's the great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson of John Watson, and then the girl who is the great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter of Sherlock Holmes. And obviously these are fictional characters, so they wouldn't have grandchildren, but in this world, they're the grandchildren. The great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren. And so it's basically about, like, they're in this boarding school, and she's the Sherlock, he's the Watson, and it's basically about, like, them solving crimes in the spirit of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson. And I've talked a lot about how much I absolutely love the Sherlock Holmes books. I read them when I was, you know, in my early teens, and it was like a huge obsession I have. So I am typically very weary of things that mess with that original story. Like, I really haven't loved, like 100% loved any adaptation that I've seen of Sherlock and Holmes, but I like that this isn't necessarily an adaptation, it's more like a play on the original story, and I have heard people say that they really, really liked this. So I'm interested to give it a shot. I absolutely love this cover, and I know the sequel comes out in February, I believe, or maybe March, I'm not sure, but it's interesting enough that I am willing to give it a chance. The next couple of books I'm going to mention, I actually received a Barnes & Noble's gift card from some family of mine for my graduation. I graduated college in December, and so my Uncle Steve and my Aunt Rosie gave me a $50 gift card to Barnes & Noble's, and she actually said she watches my videos, and that's why she wanted to give me a gift card so that she could support my channel, which thank you so much, Uncle Steve and Aunt Rosie. You guys are the best. If you're watching this, thank you so much. I purchased a lot of books with the gift of money you gave me to Barnes & Noble's, and so I'll go ahead and get into it. First 3 I'm going to mention are ones I actually bought on barnesandnobles.com, which there will be a little gripe in there coming, just you wait. But I'll go ahead and mention the book first. The first book I purchased was Summer Days and Summer Nights, 12 love stories set in summer by Stephanie Perkins. I read My True Love Gave to Me back in December, and I really, really, really liked it. My average rating I think was like a 3, which is usually pretty average when I read anthologies. There were some stories I absolutely loved. There were some stories I liked significantly less. But I'm definitely excited to pick up this collection too and read more just, you know, I guess cute love stories. And I know that the couple from Stephanie Perkins' story in My True Love Gave to Me is the same couple in this collection. And that has me so excited because the couple that she wrote in My True Love Gave to Me was one of my favorites, so I'm very, very eager to pick this up and get back into their story for another short story. The next one I picked up is a book I am actually currently reading in prep for the television show when it comes out, and that is Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty. Again, I bought this at barnesandnobles.com with the gift card I got from my aunt and uncle. This is basically the story of these 3 moms who in Australia who have children in kindergarten, and it's basically about like the cattiness and the odd politics of the parents of this group of kindergartners, and just about them wanting to argue about stupid stuff. And then at the beginning of the book you find out that someone has been murdered, and so the story is like the first chapter shows you there's an incident, and then the book goes 6 months back and it takes you through the story up until that point. And I really like the way it's written. Like I said, I have already started reading this. It has a bunch of like police interviews mixed in with the actual prose of like the people in this community talking about what happens in the chapter you're reading. So you'll read a chapter and then it'll have like a little police interview where somebody's saying, well, I don't think she should have done this. And then somebody else will go, so-and-so's overreacting, you know. But you never hear from the 3 main characters in this police interview. So it's obviously like one of them is obviously involved, but it's like which one. So I'm really liking it so far. The TV adaptation on HBO comes out on February 19th, so I'm trying to finish it before then. But yes, I'm really liking it so far. It definitely has a level of humor to it, and I'm just really excited to see what happens. Next book is the one I'm going to gripe about, and it's not the book itself, it's the condition in which I got it. And it's really not bad. It's not horrible condition, but I'm still disappointed that I spent money on it and received it in this condition. It's enough that it pisses me off. And so also on barnesandnobles.com I received A Tyranny of Petticoats, which is of course 15 stories about basically just badass women, edited by Jessica Spotswood. And to my disappointment, when I opened it, it has this massive tear in the bottom half, which, I mean, again, and I'm not even one who's like really particular about, like, I buy a lot of secondhand books that are not in the best quality. I'm not even necessarily that like stingy about the quality of my books. I'm just angry that they shipped it to me in this condition. That obviously at some point during the shipping process they tore it and still shipped it to me. That just to me is kind of unprofessional, and I don't really like that, and I would have honestly sent it back if it weren't for the fact that I would have to send it back and then it would be shipped to my parents' house and I wouldn't be able to get it until the next time I go to my parents' house, which probably won't be until I move back home. So, like, if it weren't for that, like, that obstacle on my behalf, I would have sent it back, and I'm very upset with you, Barnes & Nobles, that you allow books to be shipped in this condition. Just saying. The last book I'm going to mention is one that was a new release in January, and I bought it myself, but I used the remaining money I had left over from my gift certificate that I had gotten to pay for like most of this. I think I only paid like $5 for this book after the remaining amount of the gift card, and that is History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. This is again a book I've already read. I've actually already written my Goodreads review on it. If you're interested, you can go check that out. This is Adam Silvera's second book. This basically, it tells the story of Griffin, who basically has found out that his first love of his life, Theo, has drowned. And so the book takes place in 2 different timelines. The one timeline is after Theo's death, and it's basically Griffin trying to deal with his grief, and he also gets close to Jackson, who was actually Theo's current boyfriend at the time of his death. And then it also goes and takes place in the history at the start of Theo and Griffin's relationship, and it's kind of about them falling in love and then kind of what went wrong in their relationship that caused them to break up. And this isn't a wrap-up, so I'm not going to go into my thoughts on it, but I love this cover so much, and I trust Adam Silvera's writing enough to pretty much pick up any book he writes in the future. But if that sounds like a story you're interested in, definitely go check it out. Yeah, next two books are books that my parents got me for Christmas, but they didn't make it in time, so I didn't receive them until I went home for my birthday in January. And so I had received one of the books they got me, which was my copy of Jane Eyre that I showed my book haul last month, and then these two books from Book Depository because I wanted the UK edition. So I was like, Mom, buy me these. And so she did, but they didn't come in time for Christmas. Which is okay. I'm happy to get books anytime. The first of which is another short story collection because I have never been a fan of short stories before, and obviously there are 3 short story collections in this haul. So I'm obviously very much trying to get more into reading short story collections and anthologies. So I really wanted to pick this one up. I kind of really loved the premise that I read of it. So this is not an anthology. These are all short stories written by one person, and that is What Is Not Yours Is Not Yours by Helen Oyeyemi. This is basically a bunch of short stories that are all related to keys. Some of them are physical, some of them are metaphorical. That's what I believe I've been told, which sounds super interesting. And I'm very, very interested to check it out, and I wanted this edition because this edition is so pretty, and I'm actually a fan of the like library printed books, which is just like the word, like how they describe books that have the covers printed on the actual hardback. You see them a lot with children's books, and library copies typically are printed this way so that they don't have to worry about dust jackets. And I'm actually kind of a huge fan of that myself, because I still get to have a hardback, but I don't have to have a hardback with a dust jacket, which I take off anyway when I'm reading, so it makes it a lot simpler for the reading process. But so I was very excited to check this out. This cover is absolutely beautiful, so I asked my parents for this, and I'm very excited to kind of just dive in and check it out. I know it's not a very long collection, but I just kind of like this idea that like it's a theme, and then every story just kind of, you know, molds around that. So I'm very interested to check it out. The next one is the other book my parents got me at Christmas that didn't arrive in time. And you guys, this book is so beautiful. It's a book that's been around for a very long time. Well, not very long time. I don't want to say that. I don't know when the original publication for this book is, but it's definitely like over 10 years old. But these covers are brand new. They just came out last year. And I hope to collect the entire series in this edition because I love them so much. But I just got the first one because it's so pretty. And that is this particular edition of American Gods by Neil Gaiman with illustrations by Daniel Ignus? I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm so sorry, Daniel. I'm sorry I butchered your last name. But this book is so pretty. Like, I saw these covers and they're like meant to look like painted, and like with like different types of paint textures and stuff, and they're so pretty. Like, this one isn't even the best one in the series, because I think this is actually a trilogy of books. This isn't even the best one in the series, but honestly, like, I want to own them all because they're huge books, and there's no denying that, and they're hardcover, so they're super heavy, but these are just, I mean, they're so pretty. Like, I can't, they're so pretty. And I like it because even though they're big books, the font is a decent size, because you guys know a pet peeve of mine is when books have stupidly little font. Who reads that? No one can read that. So I appreciate that they just made the book bigger, but made the font a readable size. So to the publishers, to Headline for making this book, thank you for not making this book have stupidly small font so you could have a smaller book, because look, I'll take the extra 200 pages if it means that I don't get a migraine from trying to read the book. Of course, I don't really know the full synopsis of this book. I just know it's about a guy who discovers that, like, gods are real, So basically it's about this guy who is released from prison, and on the eve of his release from prison he finds out his wife dies, and so he like gets on a plane, and there he meets a man named Mr. Wednesday, who basically claims to know the main character, and he claims to be King of America. And that's pretty much the basic premise of this book, and they like go like traveling cross country together or something. But I know that this has to do with like gods and mythology woven into like a modern day, and that's also a trope I'm always here for, so I'm very, very excited to pick this up. The next book I got, or the final book in this haul I got, is actually a Christmas gift from my brother that he ordered too late and it didn't get here on time, but I saved it for last because there's kind of a story about it. So the book my brother got me was A Portion by Garth Nix. So I don't own the first two books in the series. I wanted him, but I love this edition of it. This is one of the UK editions of this series, and I wanted this edition. So I sent my brother a link to, the literal link to the book depository page for this edition of Sabriel, which is the first book in the series. I'm not sure why, but my brother was like, oh, she already has the first two books in the series, so he bought me the third book in the series for whatever reason, which to this day, Jean-Claude, I still don't understand why. I sent you the link and said, hey, buy me this book, so I'm not really sure where you got your idea from. So he bought me the third book in the series, which he's already said he'll buy me the first one as a late birthday present gift, so I'm still okay with that because thank you, Jean-Claude. I appreciate books in any capacity, but it's just funny because I sent him the link to literally the first book in the series, and he was like, hey, this book looks really cool, and he like said A Portion, and I was like, wait, did you buy me the right book? And he was like, I bought you A Portion, and I was like, but it's called the A Portion Trilogy. I was like, and I took a picture and I was like, is this the book you bought me? And he was like, no. And I was like, Jean-Claude, you had one job! But anyway, I'm joking. I'm not really that upset about it. It's a funny story that I'm totally cool with. So I'm gonna get 2 books out of it, and that's okay with me. Alright guys, those were all the books that I was given and or purchased in the month of January. Not a bad haul. I mean, it's not like I didn't buy anything. But I still got a pretty decent amount of books this month. Which is funny because when I go and look at all of the books I purchased in the first couple of months of last year, I was buying like 40 books a month, which I can acknowledge was not healthy. But there were extenuating circumstances, and I basically was buying books to make myself feel better, and I can acknowledge that now. So I am trying to cut back a lot on books that I am buying. I'm kind of trying to limit myself to new releases and to sequels, so only picking up a couple of books a month, but I typically do go to the secondhand bookstore occasionally, and I usually always find something I want. I'm like, but it's $3. There's no reason I shouldn't buy this. And I did just buy a couple of books online that I'm not going to get until February that I probably shouldn't have bought, but I did anyway because I wanted them. So yeah, I'll see you guys in February with that book haul. But you guys should let me know down below what books you bought this month, or if you've read any of these and you want to talk to me about them, tell me a little bit more about them. That would be awesome as well, and I'll see you guys soon with another video. Bye!